let's move on to some discussions and us as, girls and slash women in STEM. So I guess the first like obvious question is kind of like how do you feel about being in this field that was founded by a male predominant perspective? And we stereotypically think that there's going to be more men in this field, and that has been a fact, but I do think that the ratio has become more balanced. So what is your personal experience of being in the field that is kind of stereotypically men?
For me, because like I'm studying in CU med school, so I think that the gender ratio is pretty balanced. Like they're
Mm.
doing it really on purpose so that each group will have 7 girls and 7 boys. So I do not really see how there are more men in this field right now. But then of course, like in the older generation, it is very imbalanced. And also like although there are more male professors, there are also female professors, and I think they're really respected equally like in our school. But then I think undeniably in other regions or other places, I think there will still be some kind of sexism where people will think that male doctors are better, or there will be more male doctors than
Mm.
female doctors. And another thing I don't like about like Hong Kong culture is that we kind of call male doctors like just doctors, but then we call female
Mm.
doctors just like female doctors, and it
Female
is so
doctors.
weird. Yeah, and then another stereotype is that like boys tend to become surgeons because they need to stand for a longer period of time and it is really physically demanding. And for me, I think that it does not really affect my very own decision. I still kind of want to become a surgeon, or else, although I don't really know like what I actually want to be, but then like, I kind of want to try everything first. And this will not be something that will be restricting me from like trying different fields. Yeah, so like this is so far. I think yeah, this is my point of view on this subject.
Yeah, nice. I find it so interesting that you say surgeons are boys because they have to stand for a long time. Because, like, guess what? I think nurses stand on even longer times, and usually those are like somewhat girls. So, what about you, Jasmine? Poon, what's your point of views on, I guess even in vet, like it's something related to biology and chemistry. So, naturally, we would have assumed that there's going to be more men in this field. So, what's your experience on that?
It's crazy to imagine how like vets used to be like male only. Like when it was first
Whoa.
founded, like only males can do it. It's because near the olden days, like uh more popular like animals that vets work with are like cows and horses and sheep, so they're all large animals. And males are like, oh, women are too weak to do that back then. So that's why like women weren't allowed to be vets until like yeah, and but like it's crazy to see how like society has progressed now, and like it's
Mm.
most people who applied are women. And I do look forward to see what the world will become as we go further into like the years, to see if it's still going to be like female dominant or things like that. Because for now, when we see like famous vets, it's usually also males as well. I don't know if it is for you, but the most vets that I usually see around, like hear about, would be males. There are some more female vets starting to become like more advocate around in like social media and things like that, and that's great to see. But yeah, right now the course is mainly female dominant, and um, I won't say like if it's good or bad, because I don't think it really.
Yeah.
I don't think, yeah. There's not really like what's better, what's not. But it is glad to see
Mm.
that they are like allowing females to do more, like to really accept females into like um yeah, different courses, and knowing that females can
Mm.
do just as well as males. And yeah, teaching wise is also
Yeah.
like very balanced. We have female teachers, we have male teachers, so
Mm.
yeah.
Nice. I mean, it's a nice thing to see the world has become more racially balanced in fields that are stereotypically for a certain gender, which is also like a very weird concept. Like, who made these categories anyway? And I guess not, I think for me, like, it isn't just about, who is there in this field, like more men or more women or whatever, but I do feel like a lot of medical data, especially like for you, Jasmine Chen, I think this question might be more applicable for you. I think like a lot of these past data are founded on a men's perspective, like anatomy diagrams. I think there's definitely a lot of them are like men anatomy diagrams or like women anatomy previously being studied from a men's point of view, like clitoris was being examined by men for many years on their functionality, periods being studied by men, etc. Or I think even when, as a woman, like when you go to a hospital and like you see these people sharing stories on like how, you know, they're they're being dismissed for like they feel pain and the doctors are going to be like, no, you don't feel pain, it's just you're possibly over exaggerating. So I'm just kind of super interested to see like what do you think about data being founded on a men's perspective or very male centric? Yeah.
I think that I have not studied in depth and enough to actually understand like if
Right.
data is more found on men. But then, like now that you're mentioning it, I think that definitely it is. But then, I think that from like
Mm.
now, like most of the research that I have been kind of like following through and reading is kind of like I don't think it has this problem. It is just based on like
Mm.
which kind of like men or women have more of that disease. So like currently I'm having like
Right.
two projects where I need to kind of help entry data, and then one of them is more
Mm.
popular in women. So like I can see like entire list of women patients,
Mm.
and then some just like a few
Mm.
men, but then the other one is more common in young to
Mm.
middle-aged men. So then the entire list is just male patients. Yeah. So I don't think I have studied more or enough to actually know about like if
Mm.
there's discrimination in data, but then I think that we should definitely pay attention to it. And I also think that
Yeah.
like of course we should base our data on both like men and women. Yeah, especially like
Mm.
periods, because I think men will actually
Yeah.
like not really understand how the period pain is. Like they may understand it logically, but then like not subjectively. So yeah, I also
Mm.
think that like more research about like period should be done, and also the fact
Mm.
that like period pain can be as painful as a heart attack. I think that
Mm.
should be acknowledged. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Thank you so much. I totally agree. And yeah, it's nice to hear from like your perspective, like how you guys are becoming more aware on like gender imbalances and also these kind of data issues. Yeah, like I thought about this question from like human sciences because I think there's so many studies that just from a man's perspective, especially in the human sciences on psychology. So, yeah, I just felt like it's interesting to see how that works out in the STEM field. And yeah, like as young girls in STEM, I also wanted to ask you guys like what do you feel about the narrative to encourage women in STEM? Like do you feel like it's a good thing which actually helps young girls or women who are prone to being discriminated against in this male predominant field to be recognized for the effort and encourage them to go further? Or do you think that it can actually do somehow more harm than good? Because by emphasizing the encouragement of women in STEM, it kind of worsens the prejudice and against those so-called traditionally women fields such as like education, the arts, or even taking care of people, etc. Which may lead to young girls who truly enjoy these fields feel pressured to choose STEM related subjects. So yeah, what's your opinion on this encouragement that has been on the rise in the past few years, decade even?
I think that for me, I think that we should just encourage like children in general to kind of like just
Mm.
choose whatever they want to, and just
Yes.
tell they can just work anything they want to do. Yeah, I think that would definitely tell girls like, oh, of course you can do STEM, but then like of course you can
Mm.
also like do other stuff like I don't know teaching or some kind of like traditional woman field, and that like all kinds of job is really important in this society as like equally important, and also
Mm.
for example being a doctor or someone in STEM does not makes you more stronger than someone who
Mm.
does jobs like
Yes.
of taking care of people. Just yeah, I think that we should give them the choice, but then like not force
Mm.
them into it. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that entirely. Like, I feel like what are doing right now, like organizations encouraging um STEM in different schools and things like that. I think that's great because it gives opportunity. So at least like um
Mm.
people who are interested in STEM can like go into it and really be interested and involved in it. And I think also like the development of STEAM where arts is like put into it,
Mm.
like that's great as well
Mm.
because yeah, the more things that that we're giving opportunity to the younger generations, the better, so that they know that they have so many different choices they can choose to do, and yeah, to really allow all like different gender identities to just do what they wish to do. That's the best.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think nothing should be labeled with gender. And yeah, I actually have a question since both of you guys are like taking Western medicine related subjects. I actually want to know your thoughts on like alternative medicine, like Chinese medicine.
I think from a Western medicine point of view, like of course we should acknowledge alternative medicine, like kind of like traditional Chinese medicine, because I think it is also very important, and I think they're just trying another method of helping the patients. And also, I think there are also some research that prove that traditional Chinese medicine actually works. Yeah, and I think that for just for myself, I think that alternative medicine is kind of like helping a patient in long term, and like kind of like preventing the patient from having more serious symptoms or preventing them from disease. But then Western medicine kind of helps things to work really quickly. So, for example, if someone is in very strong period pain, then just take Panadol or something like that. And yeah, and I think there's a certain difference, but then of course we should acknowledge it. And I also think that Chinese medicine and Western medicine can work together actually. And also, like I think that we should actually learn more from each other. From what I know, like in Kongyu medicine, they actually have to study Chinese medicine in year 2. So yeah, I think that like both types of medicine are also very important.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I'm very welcoming towards like alternative medicine because they're all like trying to understand like the human and animal body a bit more. They're all just trying to find different methods in helping different humans and animals because in the end of the day, they're all like still they're still aiming to like understand different ways to help the animal, the person, and um yeah, I do feel like physios and things like that, they definitely help, and it's all very sometimes it's very subjective as well because every individual is different and it might be psychological as well. So I do think that it's very good that there are many different options to go with, and it, more researches like that will help us understand and develop more different ways that to help like one situation and case. And honestly, I think it'd be pretty cool if like we found out some like Chinese medicine ways to cure animals. I mean, like how cool would that be? Like, I would like to see if that like would be an option. Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, I realize I possibly do have like the video. Like they'd be putting those little needles in like a bird. It's super fun. I hope I can find the video and like maybe I can share it with you. Yeah, and I really like that you mentioned on like the psychological effect because I think it's really powerful like how much your thought can perhaps influence like your whole body as a system. It's just such an interesting field, and I absolutely feel like anything that works with living organisms, like works with animals, works with people, it definitely requires like a real human being there because there is so much psychological comfort in the physical presence of a human body. And I think, yeah, that's why I feel like you guys are like so amazing because I think you guys are not only like, someone that takes in the knowledge and apply it on and help like people and also animals, but you guys also has to be like what Jasmine C has said, like the bridge between, your patient and also your knowledge, and make sure that, psychologically they know what they're getting into and they believe that they can do it. And also like, yeah, I just think it's a really powerful thing. We can't just see like the disease, but we have to see them as a holistic person, which, yeah, I do believe like somehow like alternative medicine do kind of also emphasize on that. So yeah, thank you guys so much for the views on these questions. And now we're gonna move on something that possibly we all relate to since we're Asian. So this Asian child pressure thing. So I think plenty of Asian children, maybe not us, but I'm pretty sure they're out there. They have lived under the pressure of, becoming doctors, lawyers, engineers, or earn more money, have a startup and make money out of it. And of course, like we do emphasize on like getting a good grade. I do think our school doesn't emphasize it that much, but I do think that a lot of Asian cultures do look into that, since having a good grade is almost equivalent to like securing a good job. And so what are your points of views towards this Asian mindset? And like what do you see like this mentality, like getting a good grade so you can go and become a doctor, affecting you and the people around you? And what do you think it has on like on us and the society as a whole? And JP, for you especially, since how do you navigate through, perhaps these pressures, maybe by family or just really your society that is being internalized by yourself, like to be so determined to become a vet from a very, very young age?
I think it's great that like most of my friends and family are very supportive when I told them I want to be a vet. And since like it's very lucky for me to be very clear on this passion since I was like a little kid. So then it was hard for anyone to like sway my mind or like change anything because I was just so in it. Like I was just so sure that I was going to be a vet that wasn't going to change my mind. And most of the pressure would be on grades. Like my mom has like told me before, like you got to get good grades if you want to get into that school. And I mean, in like an Asian community, you're gonna have that pressure anyway, like that competitiveness to get a good grade. So yeah, I think definitely it was just a great thing that has the most pressure. But in the end, it was also kind of my own decision to work harder in the end because I wanted to be a vet. And yeah, that it's yeah, I don't think I have too much of that very traditional Asian family where they are like putting on too much pressure on me, but they've been mostly supportive.
Yeah, I do think like having a supportive environment is so important. I think, yeah, just I think you're such a cool inspiration like to kids out there. Just know what you want and then work towards it. And yeah, hopefully like your family and everyone's supportive. And yeah, I do totally agree with this grade thing. Like sometimes it's really external by parents and by the whole I guess system, and sometimes it's internalized. Like I think we also give ourselves a lot of pressure to get a good grade. So yeah, Jasmine Chan, what do you think about being in the one of the most prestigious medical program in Hong Kong? Like, what do you think about people, maybe people around you, or yeah, whether have you faced any of these pressures? And yeah, what do you think about this?
Personally, I've never faced this pressure because I've been a really average kid in primary school, and then my mom is just like, "Oh, that's fine," and like they don't really expect me to kind of like get any special kind of like job or like a high income job, and they're just like, as long as you can survive, it's fine. And then for me, I think that. Uh, I just really want to go into med school because like I'm really into chemistry and biology, and I really can't see myself doing humanities. Yeah, so I think that that's the main reason. And the pressure I give to myself is just like mainly from myself. So because I really know that like getting to med school means like getting a good grade, so I just kind of like work hard through high school and kind of get the grade that I want. And for the friends around me, I think that most people get into med school because they want to. But then, of course, there's always exception. There's always people who are kind of forced into med school by their parents. Some of them can just kind of study through it and slowly find med school actually pretty interesting. But then some of them are kind of like lost in some direction, but then they also know that this path can give them a stable income. And I think that like although we all have different incentives, we are all like working pretty hard, like not as in like very hard like in for the first year, because like the first year is more of like for chilling and like to enjoy life. But then like everyone just kind of try hard to pass the exam or to at least get a decent grade. Yeah, so I think that's enough. And I also think that most people who enter med school are pretty responsible. So in a sense that like they won't really treat patients like in a bad way. Yeah, so I think that the doctors are also very like patient to the patient. Yeah, so yeah, I think that it does not really affect the society as much. Yeah, I don't really see doctors being lazy because like they're forced into med school. Yeah, I don't really see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with like I think yeah, just first of all, the internal pressure that we give ourselves. And I think, yeah, I think maybe I can share a bit about like, my perspective from this. Because when I was young, I wanted to be a freaking detective. Like, what was I thinking? So it wasn't very realistic to start off with. So yeah, like I need to navigate through, all of these challenges. And yeah, maybe I kind of realized what I really wanted at a bit later age. But then I know I don't like chemistry. Like this is for sure I'm not very interested in. So yeah, you know what happened in my current university? It doesn't offer like medicine degree, but then like people were saying like, oh, if I have a higher grade in my public exams, of course I will be doing something like med. So it's just really interesting to see that, and also like surrounded by people with that particular mindset, that definitely made me feel like really interested towards this kind of question. And like, because yeah, we're all 45 IB years, like yeah, it's just really interesting to see different people's points of views, and like the people that I sometimes see on a daily basis, and what they feel. And yeah, sometimes like they just feel like their grade is the only thing that's stopping them from securing like one of the most respectable jobs in Asian culture. I also totally agree with like anything, like even if you are enrolled in a program that perhaps you don't like, but I truly feel like anything under like the proper guidance, and also if you put in enough effort and just kind of cultivate your interest for this subject, like anything can be interesting and anything can be fun. And I do think like guidance is really important, and also your own motivation, passion, your own will to actually want to improve and like the subject that you're studying for. So yeah, and of course there are people who are there for financial reasons, because it's a privilege to pursue your passion. I definitely agree with that, because so many people, they don't even have the financial ability to think about passion or like to really pursue that. Like they're so numbed by this capitalistic world that they kind of have to really prioritize financial abilities at the first priority. So I completely understand anyone with their different motives. And like, yeah, I'm just so happy for you guys that I think you guys truly enjoy what you want to do. And I think that's just, a really fabulous thing. And I guess the last question that I wanted to have, like in this podcast series, what we always try to wrap it up with, education. So I wanted to kind of ask you guys, like, what do you want to say for the kids, or I guess especially girls who want to get into STEM. Also, I also want to see what your opinions on the educational system of teaching STEM subjects. Like, I think for biology, for me, it's fun, but then most of them for me is like textbook reading. So I wanted to have some more fun in action. And also because of COVID, there's like chemistry labs that are closed due to the pandemic. And like, how does that affect on the educational system? So yeah, two parts. First one, what do you want to say for the kids who want to get into STEM, and what are your views on this current system that teaches STEM or STEAM subjects?
Yeah, I personally think that when it comes to educating like on STEM subjects, it's so important on like hands-on labs and everything, because um, it really helps with your experience in learning, and it really cultivates your interest in it. And when you're very interested in the things that you're doing, you tend to like remember them more. You tend to like learn more and gain more from it. So I
Yeah.
do think labs and stuff are very important in our education. Restrictions with COVID is quite annoying, and you have to take government regulations because it's safety. It's for public safety. So it is quite annoying, but I think some things that schools might be able to do, or just like people in social media can actually like be like
Yeah.
influencers kind of thing, can help with like short videos, like home projects, things like that. Maybe those were could be more catered to like younger people, but then like it's still possible to have like short videos of like just like factual videos, kind of like that, to like keep people engaged even during COVID and things like that. And for something to wrap up today, I would just like to tell everyone, not just girls, like any gender identifications, anyone, that there are no limits to what you wish to do. No matter what gender you identify as, there are no limits. And just look out for opportunities because they will be there. And I do hope that people continue to give all those opportunities to all of the younger generations. And yeah, encourage every single one of you to chase your dreams and to try out as many things as you can to find what you're passionate about and and don't give up.
Okay, so for me, I think that like education in STEM is really important, and also like labs are very important, especially in a lower grade, because like that's how you get interested into like science subjects. And although a lot of like labs are restricted right now, I think that textbooks are also very helpful. And also like as Jasmine Poon has mentioned, maybe some like other fun activities and videos on YouTube will also help. And yeah, I think that we should increase the emphasis on STEM education, on like especially also creativity, and also like asking kids to do their own like science projects and also stuff like that. And another thing I want to mention is that if you really want to get into STEM, like you can talk to different professionals actually working in STEM, so they will give you a better feel of how it is actually like, and like you got plenty of time to decide what you actually want. And for my wrap up message, I just want to say that you don't need to force yourself into a decision like right now, because like you have plenty of time, and even if you're already in university, it's not too late to change. And I do know people who have changed from like medicine to vet, or like medicine to other subjects, so like that's completely normal. And some people they will change specialty even like years later. So yeah, just don't force yourself into a decision, and just kind of like expose yourself to more different subjects and also like opportunities.
Nice. That's such a good message. Yeah. I actually suddenly thought about like the STEAM education previously mentioned by JP. I think that's so interesting, right? Like we're like what you previously mentioned, like a lot of schools are also incorporating arts into it. And I think yeah, there is definitely like some similarities between the arts and also STEM subjects, even though we think that they're so far apart. And yeah, I just feel like we have to fund more on the arts and literature because I think the older I get, I realize like how fabulous and how beautiful they all are. And also Joshua, you are also pursuing a STEM subject. I also want to see, your points of view on pursuing a STEM major, and also you're also super good at like the arts or literature. So yeah, how do you kind of study these two and like have a balance between these two? Yeah, Joshua designed most of the Canva posters and they are pretty. So yeah, I just wanted to ask about your personal experience with STEM and also with like the arts or literature or even history.
Yeah. Actually, from a young age, I don't really know what I wanted to do for like my higher education. So when I was young, I feel like I'm better with like literature and the humanities. So I chose, I thought of choosing law for my university. But then as I grew up and, as you said, parental pressure and, how, people tell you that as a boy, you should be doing something, STEM related. You should be good at maths. You should be good at science. So, now I chose a degree which is more, open ended. By year three, we get to choose, what path we want to do. So, who knows? I may be doing, veterinarian medicine or, actually, human medicine. I have no idea. So, yeah, I'm just leaving up to fate as of right now. But yeah, if I guess if I got to choose again, perhaps I'll actually choose something more, arts related or, literature related. So, you know, as much as girls should be encouraged to take up STEM subjects, I also think that boys should also be encouraged to take up something perhaps more artsy and more something related to humanities or literature. And I think these stigmas and these expectations should really be broken. And as we have all mentioned, an individual's choice and an individual's autonomy should really be respected and upheld. I mean, we live in a contemporary society now, and societal expectation and pressure shouldn't be a thing.
Wow, I'm so glad that I asked you this question because, it's just us three girls talking. And you raised a super good point on, like, the societal pressure and its effect on, boys as well. So the message is just F patriarchy because it hurts
Yeah.
like everyone. Yeah, that's so interesting. Like for me, I think in university, you start to become more interested in the humanities and the arts. Before I like STEM, like especially math and physics. So like, there's only two girls in my physics HL class and IB, and like, it's just, and I felt cool. Like I felt like, wow, Talia, you're such a nerd. That's a great thing. Like, wow, you're doing all these things. But then I increasingly realized that I truly like human beings. Like, I hate to socialize with humans, but I'm really interested in them. I don't know. That made me sound like an alien that's studying like carbon-based, organisms. But it's so interesting how similar we are and how different we are, and that's just something I think, like what Jasmine Chan has mentioned, is a gradual learning process, and you can definitely change it up even like after you get your degree or during when your university studies. So that's really interesting to hear from you, Joshua. And I think, this encouragement of boys in like artsy subjects, I think an example that I have is like dance competitions like ballet. Like it's a really messed up way to encourage boys. Like I remember like watching this show called Dance Moms, and basically they were like, oh, and they're boys in my trio. Like that's a cool thing because if you have boys, you're set up to like kind of be an easy route to win, because the method for encouraging boys into like fields that are more girly are basically giving up higher awards, like to encourage them. And even in like even like professional ballet institutions, the way to keep these male in the industry is to give them higher pay, make their status rise higher. So I think that's just super interesting to see how this gender thing affected, so many aspects of our lives subconsciously. And yeah, like thank you, Joshua, for bringing that up. And I think that's a super interesting point of view.
Yeah, I just have to say it's great. I just love how you guys are saying, yeah, it's never too late to like try new things. Like life is just for you to like explore and try out everything you can. And yeah, it's never too late to change. Like there are people in our courses that have done all sorts of degrees. Like there's this guy in our course that did theater production, and it's really cool. And now he's studying veterinary science. And I just think that
Okay.
it's really cool how people are like could like decide what they like and later on in their lives, and it's still really cool. And they still have like so much time to do to find out what they really love.
Thank you guys so much, Jasmine Chen and JP. Thank you guys so much for your time for this episode. And thank you guys so much for listening, and we hope to see you next time on The Uncommon Senses.